Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. On today's show, we're going to talk about the wide receiver position in the Grove Bowl. We're going to talk about the wide receivers that might be coming in. And we'll also tell you how you should be watching the wide receivers in Ole Miss's offense. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, of course, for making us your first listening every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, so do us a favor. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell for notifications and new videos when they go up, which is quite frequently, and, of course, upvote the video itself. Bonus surprise, once we hit 1,000 subscribers before football season, which looks increasingly like it's going to happen, we are going to do a live, post-game live show in football featuring I've got a yes already from an Ole Miss legend. We've got a high school coach that's going to help us out, and we're going to find different perspectives that we can bring on the show to talk about what's going on. It'll only be about a half hour. It'll be fairly quick. It's not going to interrupt your day too much, but it'll give you exactly what we need to be talking about in the game going forward, especially with this football team. So that should be a lot of fun. Okay, today we're going to talk about the wide receiver grades, and later on we're going to talk about possible transfers that could come in, and also how should you watch the Ole Miss wide receiver position, because I'm of the opinion that the wide receiver position will never be good enough whenever uneducated people look at it, because they don't understand how the offense is run. So they see the fact that we're using interior receivers pretty often to think the outside is poor. And I just don't think that is the case, unless, Jackson Dart in the spring game is in control and he's throwing deep to outside receivers and doing air raid things, but not running the offense. Got to keep it inside. So the important thing is the tight end and the slot receiver and the running back. Those are the three most important players in the offense besides the quarterback. Now, the grade for the wide receiver position is going to be an incomplete, honestly. There's not anything that you could tell from that Grove Bowl, and because of that, that's the reason we'll look at the players that they are looking at potentially coming in, and we will talk a little bit about that. But what we saw in this game, there's a couple things. Brandon Buckhalter made a catch, nice catch. J.J. Henry actually showed out. He was a slot receiver. That's the reason he got more work than everybody else as a slot receiver. He did pretty well. He started for the red team. I don't know what that means. He started over Jordan Watkins, and Jalen Knox did not play. So Jonathan Mingo did not play as well. So I think we will be all right in the wide receiver position, much like last year, based off of what we have. But based off the spring game, there might be a little consternation in the ranks of the fan base, because they want to see those outside receivers like Laquan Treadwell and Dante Moncrief and A.J. Brown. Well, A.J. played on the inside, but DK Metcalf. And they want to see them doing that typical Hugh Freeze, honestly, Ole Miss thing. Back to Mike Wallace under Coach O. They want to see that happening. But that's not exactly what's going to be this offense in the future. So you have people that made fairly good plays. Like I said, Jonathan Mingo was had a second surgery on his foot. And Jalen Knox did not play. That's two of the three right there that are probably projected to start. And then on the outside, you've got somebody that needs to step up, but it could also be a transfer coming in that we don't know. Now, the one important thing that I think we need to do is get a little bit more size in our recruiting, our wide receiver position. The size will help in the run game. This is first and foremost a run offense, and people hopefully are coming around to that. They've been really slow, and whatever their narrative was, they spend 2 years on, well, Lane Kiffin is only going to be here this year and he's going to be on the first thing smoking. He's going to be on the first thing smoking. That's the Lane Kiffin experience, yada, yada, yada. And once that was proved untrue and they're starting to work on that, the other thing that needs to be narratively caught up on is the fact that Lane Kiffin is not an air raid coach. Never. And because of that, if you understand that he's not a air raid coach, you can understand the fact that this is a run-first team. That's the reason Zach Evans and Ulysses Bentley are so important to this team. Absolutely important to them. And if you know that, the outside receivers and the things they do are just a little bit different. Now, the reason the inside receivers are so important to this offense is this is an RPO system. And if you're making reads off of the RPO, you're making reads off of linebackers and defensive linemen and things like that. And doing that, you have a chance to be a little bit successful in what's going on. But I just don't think we saw enough from anybody in the wide receiver room, save maybe J.J. Henry, to be able to make any sort of judgment upon them. It's just a necessity of the position, kind of. But when we come back, we are going to talk all about exactly who might come in. We got a couple of options. There's not many spots. Remember, the 32 is kind of an ironclad thing, but you do have some leeway with early signees and that. So we don't know the exact number, but it's not many. Don't expect a full wholesale change in the transfer portal. This is the time of year when I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. This year I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you're not, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious and all new flavors coming out all the time. That's a lot of alls. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It'll be delicious, and it will be good for you. At Built Bar, it's all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, and they figure out how to make it healthy, and I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every single time. So here's the offer. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, all one word, and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Now for a big announcement. For the first time ever, Locked On is hosting live coverage of 2022 NFL Draft from our studios in Dallas with pick-by-pick analysis from our local team experts and draft gurus. I think I'm supposed to go on the Friday, actually, if you need some Steve. Also, today, I am Locked On SEC for the full show. So if you need more Steve, it's available. And tune in all 3 days as our draft team guides you through every pick and every trade in real time. It all starts Thursday, April 28th at 7 Eastern. Available on Locked On NFL on YouTube and on the Audacity app. So that is going to be pretty cool. In the first segment, we talked about how the spring game was kind of an incomplete for the wide receiver position. You can't really make a grade on it. Well, the only person that really stood out, besides maybe Jordan Watkins, was J.J. Henry. And both of those guys played the slot position. We're going to get into that in the third segment a little bit and talk about what's going on. Because people kind of need to understand our offense a little bit if you're going to make educated opinions on said offense. That's just the way this works. But there are several people that talk about how the outside receivers are disappearing and things like that. And they just don't really understand that 80% of the offense, 90% of the offense is not incorporating them. There's shot plays and you see the big plays and that's what comes out. But doesn't necessarily incorporate them. The inside receivers are always going to be the guys. They're the RPOs, the tight end, the slot receiver, and their work in the middle of the field is imperative this offense in conjunction with the running back. It's very effective, very effective. But So one of the reasons we named it an incomplete is because the room is not complete. Malik Heath, for sure, we know about him transferring in the summer. They're trying to get Deion Smith in, who is a high-level guy who went to SEC or LSU as a start. Now he's looking to transfer out. It looks like he's going to. He did not participate in LSU spring practice or anything like that. So there's a chance that could happen as well. And Deion Smith would be a big player. He'd be like Braylon Brown. But don't expect eye-popping numbers from that position. That's what I say. There's going to be big plays, but there's probably 30 or 40 balls is what you can expect on the outside. Ideally, Michael Trigg is going to be the focus of the passing game with the slot receiver being able to complement him. We need to find somebody to do that. I've seen J.J. Henry. I've seen Jordan Watkins. I need to see what Jalen Knox does. I haven't seen him yet. He's been here for 18 months, it seems like, and I haven't seen him. So going into the fall, that is the step. Now, this is all separate from whether or not Jackson Dart figures out the offense, because the different quarterback in the game means you're going to have different levels and different things you can do with quarterbacks between Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier, because they are completely different quarterbacks. They really are. And not just the whole machine-like efficient thing of Luke Altmaier and the gunslinger style of Jackson Dart. They are actually different styles. Jackson Dart is a much more physical player. He's so toolsy. He reminds you a little bit maybe of somebody like Jordan Herbert, San Diego. He's a little bit smaller than that, but he's a big dude. Luke Altmaier is a slight guy. He's not going to be as physical, but he's fairly athletic, and you can see how he plays the game with like I said, the best description, honestly, is a Drew Brees style quarterback. He's going to be very efficient. He's going to hit the seams. He's going to do pretty well. Now, one of the problems he had over the weekend, even though I'm going off on this, is because those receivers were incomplete and some other guys are coming in, and because he might be used to certain receivers, he missed left or right a couple of times. He didn't miss high, and he didn't really miss low. It could just be a left and right, like in a timing route, and that is somebody that is expecting somebody to be further along than they are, because he usually led them a little bit too much. Now, there's no chance of it being picked off. It was a good pass, but it was Luke Altmaier making assumptions and maybe not working a lot with the guys. There's probably second or third teamers that he doesn't see very often that played on this team, even on the red team. So it will be good. Now, I will say this before we get off on that. Kincaid Dent is going to be a good number 3 quarterback. He is not going to compete for the starting role. People that are taking too much of his stats, too much of his 11 on 11 in the spring game, it's going to be fool's gold all over again. So don't fall into that trap, if you will, because that's just something that is just going to happen, unfortunately. But it could be pretty good. But the transfers, I think there's a guy from UCF, the kid from Vanderbilt, the wide receiver, probably isn't coming in. I think if Deion Smith doesn't make it, the kid from UCF will end up getting the spot. They went into the portal. Both of them went into the portal before May 1st. They can come in during the summer and be immediately eligible. So that is one thing there. So that is what the portal looks like, and that is kind of why the receiving position got an incomplete, honestly, in this game, because you couldn't really tell too much. I was kind of impressed with Jordan Watkins, and I was kind of impressed with J.J. Henry, and Michael Trigg at tight end is going to be an absolute beast. Casey Kelly was kind of an assistant coach, but you can see the weapon that is Michael Trigg going at the tight end position, and we're gonna spend a whole show probably talking about Michael Trigg because that dude's a special player, and he has a chance to be all SEC as a true freshman. That's my hot take for the day. He has a chance to be all SEC as a true freshman. Yes, I know that Brock Bowers still exists. Yes, I know Eric Gilbert's still out there. But if you have two people there, they're going to take plays away from each other. I think Michael Trigg is going to be the focal point of this offense, and because of that, I think he's going to put up excellent numbers. And in the slot, you find somebody that can complement him, all of a sudden you have something that'll work a little bit. Now, there's talent on the outside, and especially if Deion Smith comes in and you have Braylon Brown and Jonathan Mingo and Malik Heath and those guys on the outside, those are big dudes that are going to handle blocking extremely well, because don't forget about Zach Evans and Ulysses Bentley IV and Quinshon Judkins, those guys. We have a running back room that the only running back room that was probably close to it was in 1998, 1999 with Deuce McAllister and Joe Gunn. Now, we did have the John Avery and Deuce McAllister thing, but it's interesting. You just look at it, and here's a blast from the past. I'm just going to talk about this for a second. I'm not really going to get off on it. I don't want to do the stream of consciousness thing, but I watched Ulysses Bentley IV, and the first thing that popped into my head was Corey Philpott. Does anybody see that correlation? He just looks like a Corey Philpott type back. He looks like he could be a microwave. He could be a spark plug. He's going to be a great player. And that 42-yard catch in the Grove Ball, I mean, he flashed. He really flashed. So I'm pretty impressed with that. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you'll need. Why endure the pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? And why wait for the person behind the counter to order parts on their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and into your pocket. So what you can do is you can save time and money using Rock Auto. It's a family business. It's been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, and you can go explore their website today and find the solution to your auto parts need. But this is what you need to do. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car and truck. Write Locked On, that's 2 words, in their How Did You Hear About Us box to know that we sent you. It's an amazing selection. They have reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. You can say whatever you want to say. Just give us a 5-star review. It will help others find the podcast in the future. That's the reason we do that. So please leave a 5-star review. You can say Steve's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Steve doesn't know baseball. Steve doesn't know anything. You can say whatever you want to. Just leave a 5-star review, because it'll help other people find ours, and so they can get those perspectives that they want. And that'll come in very handy whenever we are doing post-game live, completely interactive, that you can participate in once we get 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So it should be a lot of fun. So in the first segment, we talked about why this was kind of an incomplete. You can't really judge the wide receiver unit off of this Grove Ball. And part of that is by design, by the way. Lane Kiffin is designing this so you can't really see what's going on. It's designed so that a starting quarterback is throwing to a third-string slot receiver or something like that. And it just makes the 11 on 11 and all the stats and everything completely worthless. And you can't really use that against Ole Miss in the future, other than to say that the offense is going to kind of look like the offense looks. But they can look at actual game film last year and do that. But I see over and over and over again, people say that the wide receiver room is struggling. Wide receiver room is going on. And I think it's because people don't understand what's going on. I always say all the time, trust your own eyes and, do whatever you have to do. Trust your opinion more than anybody else's, especially in the media today, because they can just randomly take you down a rabbit hole that they want you to go to. And then at the end of the day, you're like, wait, that didn't happen. It didn't go down like that. And because of that, they say the narrative is right now that this wide receiver group is struggling. This wide receiver group isn't what it needs to be. And I think that just isn't the case. I think this wide receiver group will always look like it's struggling. You can put 2 5-stars on the outside. It's going to look like the wide receiver group is struggling. Why is that? Well, this is an RPO system. First and foremost, this is a tempo RPO system. And because of that, the conflict players are in the middle of the field. So the offense is built around the running back, the tight end, and the slot receiver. Which player's in conflict, it all depends on the play, but it's designed to always have somebody. You have somebody that's going behind the linebackers, crossing the field. You have somebody that's going in front of the linebackers. You have somebody that occasionally hitting the seam. Now, 85-90% of the offense is just that. It's all RPOs. It's all quick. It's going to look like what it's going to look like. And people are going to say the outside wide receivers are struggling. But through the design of the offense, that necessarily isn't the case. Now, there is one thing, and where they make their hay, and that's the reason they have 30, 40 catches in a year on the outside, is because 10% of the offense is what I call Lane Kiffin shot plays. And they're designed to get the outside receivers on double moves and also to affect the safeties to make sure they're not cheating up to take away those RPOs. I mean, that's what it's for. That's the reason those shot plays are in there. So if they are being honest and having to stay deeper than the deepest, those passes are going to be available from time to time. Now, the trick is not overusing them, which we saw in the Grove Bowl from Jackson Dart. That got him in a little bit of trouble. But you do have to use it a little bit, which is something that I was glad to see Luke Altmaier trying to do, because you need to keep that safety down from taking away what will be an RPO type throw, either in front of the linebackers or behind the linebackers. You don't want that safety coming down and paying attention to what's going on. And that is the responsibility of the outside receivers, to occupy them, to make them worry about them. You'll see double moves. You'll see different plays. They're trying to get a receiver wide open on the outside. Those plays, even though they might be 3 or 4 a game, stick in the back of the mind of the free safety that is scared to death about being beat over the top. And because of that, he's not going to come down and affect Michael Trigg. He's not going to come down and affect J.J. Henry or Jordan Watkins or Jalen Knox. He's not going to come down and do that because he's scared of being beat over the top by Braylon Brown or Jonathan Mingo or let's say Deion Smith or Malik Heath. Those guys are designed to do that, and they're bigger guys. They're bigger, faster guys with the hopes that they're going to be excellent blockers as well, so you can use them in the run game as well. So that is the direction I wanted to take y'all and just explain that to you a little bit going into this football season. Wide receiver, the outside receivers, to the uneducated eye, will always have a problem. It will never look like they expect it to, because these people that are making the opinions, they look at it like football in 2008, to where the outside guys, before the RPO really. And because of that, you have a situation to where you can't really get beyond that, because there's not conflict players on the outside. There's just not. That's the why everything is coming in between the hashes. That's the reason football is doing that. It's not an outside game. It wasn't too long ago that freshman quarterbacks and sophomore quarterbacks and young guys, they didn't throw inside the hash. Now you come in, the first thing you learn is how to handle inside the hash, and then you've got to have the arm to do the outside, and you can expand the field that way. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Tomorrow, we will talk tight ends. Michael Trigg had a day. He's obviously one of the best 1 or 2 athletes on the team. Should be good to see. To now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free and wherever you get your podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.